Curtis, this is Curtis White. He's our chief interpreter in charge of the rangers and interpretation and the programs, both in the park and where there's interpreters go out to the schools and visit the schools before they get there, so it's not just a field trip for the kids in the day off from school. They actually learn about the park and the ironworks and the history, all about the ironworks and colonial living. And so when they get to the park, they have a little bit more behind information when they get to the park and see how it all gels together about early living in New England. So Curtis is going to give a quick speech about the park and our grand opening coming up next month.
Yeah, just tell you that the Saugus Ironworks National Historic Site is one of those 391 sites set aside by Congress that tell a special story about the history of the United States. And what the ironworks tells about is the place where the iron-making industry gained a foothold in this country in the mid-1640s. And from there continued to grow and spread. And there are still people in the iron industry today that can trace their iron-making roots back through the Saugus, from Saugus back into England. So you got to remember that in the 1640s, when the ironworks started, this whole North America was a stone-based culture. And when the Puritans come into Massachusetts, they're setting up this religious community, and they know that they need some sort of economic infrastructure that's going to support their new community. So early on, they know that they're going to go into fishing, in timber industry and so forth, so they need the iron in order to produce the fish hooks and the boats and saw blades and that sort of thing, to keep the industry going and to keep the colony going. So that's what the ironworks is all about. It was a conscious decision to make iron in New England and bring those technological skills to Massachusetts, and from Massachusetts it continued to spread. We've been a National Historic Site since April 5th, 1968. That was the day after Martin Luther King was assassinated. So amid all the turmoil that was going on in Washington in 1968, on that day, the Saugus Ironworks became a National Historic Site. So this Saturday will be our 40th anniversary as a National Historic Site.
Didn't they start work on that in the 50s, restoring it?
Right. Yeah. At that point in time, the archaeological work was done. There was a lot of paper and historical information available, but it was a completely different story before the archaeology started compared to what it was after the archaeology, because there was so much in the ground that provided a great deal of information to the historians to understand this story a lot better. So it was all done with private money by the American Iron and Steel Institute. They financed to about $2 million the reconstruction. Again, that was in the 1940s and 1950s. The American Iron and Steel Institute also gave $25,000 a year thereabout to the First Ironworks Association to sustain the buildings, to keep them up during the 60s. But in the mid-60s, it basically came down to, well, we don't have that kind of money anymore. Next year, you better find somebody else to help finance you. Then that came about the next year, and they said, oh, we don't have that money anymore, you got to find somebody else. Eventually, they just put the foot down and said, this is it, this is the last money you're getting, you better find something to do with it. And that's when it became a National Historic Site. There's been, Dave especially, he's been there since '74.
74.
At the park, in the first major redo of the ironworks, and it's probably been through at least one or two since, depending on which parts you look at. And most recently, in 2005, November of 2005, we shut down our museum, and we've been in various degrees of open or not open. We just opened April 1st. Hopefully, we'll be operating until the end of October. We're going to have a regular summer season, closed during the winter. But we're looking at doing a grand reopening because we had new pathways, a lot of things to make the site more accessible. New pathways put in and paved. We've got a new switchback pathway that gets people from our upper area to the lower area. We've got a virtual reality tour, computerized program that people can guide themselves through the house in some places that are normally not accessible. We had to take our museum and repair that. The whole floor was falling out of the museum, and we got enough money to fix the building, but not enough money to put the exhibits back. So we've been closed. Well, we'll probably have that at least partially open, I think, by the end of the week. And then by May 16, May 17, we're gonna have a big grand opening event. May 17th is gonna be an all-day event. We'll have an iron pour. We've got some people from Mass Art that graduated a few years ago that come down, bring their own small furnace, and you can come down and carve out your initials or carve out a design into a mold, and then they'll pour that in iron for you. So it should be a good day on May 17th, as long as the weather's all good. So we hope to see you all there.
Whereabouts in Saugus are you located?
It's just not too far from the town hall. Be about maybe half a mile,
500 yards, 500
Yeah.
yards up the road on Central Street.
and also maybe half a mile from Route 1. So between Main Street,
East of Route 1?
Correct.
east of Route 1, right.
East?
Yeah,
Correct.
and it's easy to get to, and it's free too. So you can come on down.
Was there iron ore in that area?
Yeah, you know where the Ship Restaurant is?
Yes.
In the Lynn Woods, there was a lot of iron ore in that area. The company also had a sister site that you hear about all the time, you probably don't notice it. You hear references to Furnace Brook Parkway in Quincy?
Yeah.
Well, that Furnace Brook was the furnace that powered the sister site to Saugus. That was built there actually in 1643 by the same company. And they'd also mine ore down there, and they'd transfer pig iron back and forth from Braintree to Saugus, or Lynn as it was at the time, and the reverse. So ore was coming from north and south shores in order to make the iron.
Did Henry Ford put some money in that, or
Hen-
take part of it?
There was a blacksmith at Saugus Iron Works, Edward Guy. He had been working for Wallace Nutting, the person who restored the house.
Yeah.
Then Wallace Nutting sold off the house. It went through a couple of antique dealers, and in 1941, the house was purchased by the Trade School Association for Henry Ford, and I think it had to do with Henry Ford's restoration of Wayside Inn in Sudbury.
Yeah.
So I think that's what triggered all of this interest in the ironworks and the blacksmith shop. And the whole thing, the ironworks house, what's now our museum, was a blacksmith shop, and the blacksmith, all of it, we're gonna go to Dearborn, to the museum out there. And a woman who worked in town, Louise Fox, didn't think that that should happen. And during World War II, she managed to form the first Ironworks Association, put together the money to buy the house back from Henry Ford, pay some of the expenses that had already been incurred. And then it was a result of purchasing the house that they purchased land where the original ironworks was, and that's when the archaeology started after the war.
She took leave.
Yeah. Well, we gotta hit these lights, and we'll give David the floor.
Thank you. Thanks, As I said, my name is Dave Bogdan. I've worked for the National Park Service for a long time, since 1974. You can do the math. June 6th. But I've been doing wildland firefighting probably since 1986. Summer of '86, they come up to me and asked me if I was red carded, and I said, "What's a red card?" And they said, "Well, if you were red carded, you'd know what it is." It's what it is. It's your license, you might say, and skills and knowledge where you put on for doing wildland firefighting. And my superintendent knew about red card from other parks he worked at. So I said, "Sure, what do you have to do?" He says, "Well, send you over to Boston University, and they're doing a quick 3-day crash course of wildland firefighting." And we got on a plane, 3 days, and off to Oregon I was, and had a great camping experience for 2 weeks, and said, "I'm gonna do this again." So I've been having a great time since doing it. Close calls, yeah, a few times, but you know, the idea is you keep ahead, keep your heads with you, and you know, you come home safe, and that's the bottom line whenever I go anywhere. And I stress that incredibly when I take a crew of 20. I take crews, you'll see pictures out now. I've been with the lab, and I'm a crew boss and a strike team leader, which has like 3 crews underneath us, you know, and I'm working on my task force, which last year I worked on, and that would be, I have like 3 engines assigned to me. It could be a couple of dozers and some water tenders and skidgens they're called. It's like a log harvester, whichever, and it has water and all that, so that's under my command when I'm going now. But I always stress the guys, you always want to come home for Thanksgiving dinner. Let a couple more acres burn, we're all right, but you know, you always want to make sure you're always home and keep safety in mind. I can't see everything as I'm watching you work, so you got to stress and keep your eyes on what's going on, what's about you, your forces, local forces around you, so always keep your heads up. You know, don't always be looking down, look up and around. And that is a class due to casualties at different fires. There's a book in a class now, it's called Look Up and Around. And that's, so you're not always bent over, looking at the ground, cutting line, cutting line. You're looking up to see what the weather's doing, what the fire's doing, see what the smoke's doing. Because it's, you know, we all line out there. And it's kind of different that you see a structure fire protection guys go when a building's on fire, everybody runs out, and they're pretty much safe as soon as they step out the door. They pull the trucks literally right up to the building and they put the fire out. Okay? When you're at a wildland fire, you're in the midst of everything that's burning. So you really got to be careful where you park yourself, park your rigs, or whatever, because the fire is eating everything around it. So there's safety zones you always have to worry about, you know. Where you park your truck in the morning, as the fires move during the day, the fire's usually gotten a whole lot closer to where your rigs are parked. So it's just things you got to keep in mind. And that's why I say, as the fire goes on, what they told you in briefing at 6 o'clock in the morning, weather might have changed where the fire is, the fire location. Of course, it's spreading in all directions. So you always got to keep your heads up whenever you go to a fire. And every fire is different. It really is. Terrain, you know, weather does it all. So I'll give you a little overlook at some pictures and stuff of what a day in the life of a firefighter. I brought some gear with me we'll look at later. There's a vest here. You can carry, put it around. It's a 45-pound vest. And that's what you have to do every year, is put that on. Every firefighter does, put it on and walk around a track, flat track, with your over-the-ankle boots. It's 45 pounds, and you have to do 3 miles in 45 minutes. No running, walking only. And that's the test, the physical part of the test. We also have to take a physical exam. But that stimulates what you normally have to do on a daily at a fire. You're usually carrying 25 to 30 pounds of gear with you as you're walking and hiking. Could be 6, 8, 10 miles from where you parked your rigs to get to your work site for the day. And then you walk out. So there's a lot of hiking involved, so that's our stress test that we do every year, all firefighters do. We'll see what happens here. What support is needed when you go to a fire? Well, first of all, when you get called up to go to a fire, it could be any time of day, you have your red pack, which is your 2 weeks worth of gear. Your red pack, this is your day pack that you'd be carrying on the fire. And your red pack has all your 2 weeks worth of gear, change, clothes, and what have you, you're gonna need in the fire, sleeping bags and that stuff. And you go up to Manchester Airport, as you can see, you load your own gear. So you walk up here, drop your cargo, and you throw it in. There's already a crew member up inside here, and he takes your gear and up inside the belly of the plane. You hand around, you get back in the plane, and you go to, usually Missoula, Montana, wherever. And you get there and you do the thing in reverse. So it's not like Logan Express. Here's our gear lined up here. This is in Missoula, Montana, when we're coming home from the thing. The bus pulls you right up onto the tarmac. Note the name, Con Air. Con Air. Can't guarantee how you fly.
Yeah.
You get a bag lunch. See these bag lunches? That's what they hand you. That's your day for the going home. You hand you a bag lunch for the day, and you're on the plane for a couple hours. And who knows where you go to? But this is coming home from Montana. And the crew all lined up. You see all the gear's packed nice and tight. You're allowed 55 pounds. That's it. They weigh you. They weigh us. We have to go through security. So no knives. I brought mine with me here. Now we have to go. They got to take your knives out. Even though we go through security, no, you don't need your knife on the plane. You know, take all that stuff, put it in the red pack, and stow. You still can't be in the cabin with anything. So these are guys you can see. The other thing is when they show up, that's why I brought this my dress here. When you show up at the airport, I can give a quick glance to the crew boss saying you have your gear. You have your yellow shirt, your fire-resistant shirt, pants, boots, helmet, and everything. If you show up in your civvies, oh, I got that packed. I don't know that for sure. So you show up at an airport dressed, ready to go on the line. That's how we do it. So everybody's got their boots and everything ready to go. And one of the guys up in the cargo hold. When they drop us off at the airport, we'll take a bus and go to a base camp. Base camp is just some field out in the middle of the woods. This is Base Camp Leona up in Republic, Washington. It's about 15 miles from the Canadian border. You see our row of outhouses here. That's like downtown where all the tents for the overhead people are. And scattered out in the woods here is where our tents are, where the crew sleeps out in here. And the mess tents and what have you are over there. This is a little city that just pops up, boom, and this supports you for the day, or for the 2 weeks. There's a little closer look from down in the valley of a crew. Most everybody knows what a line is. That's a chow line. It wraps all the way around you, the tent. Up to 1,500 people sometimes in these base camps. 20 people in a crew, and it just grows. It depends on the fire. It just grows, and it depletes it just as fast. When the fire is winding down, it's the same way. They start putting up people in D mode and send them either home
if they're close to their 2-week assignment, they're 14 days. Or if they still have a week left, they put them back on the availability board, and then they go to another fire 10 miles away, 20 miles away. One time we were flying home from Arizona, and in midair they turned us around and we landed in Utah and went to a fire there. So we thought we were going home. So I don't call my wife and say I'm landing at Logan until I get there. You should never know.
Who pays for all this?
You and I do, if you paid the federal taxes last year. In 2000, I know that it figured out to about every American that paid taxes, about $13 of your federal tax money went to firefighting efforts across.
That includes the food and everything?
That includes everything, right. That includes everything you see there. When we get to the base camp, there are private companies that the government has on hand, just like the firefighter, we're a resource. They have shower guys that have trailers converted into showers. You'll see some photos of that. And that's all paid for by the government. They have on-call, on standby, out west. It's different from around here, you might say. But it's like the Red Cross and Door Fire. If there's mobile units, they have something to that effect.
You work with smoke jumpers too?
I have worked with smoke jumpers, yes, but I am perfectly happy landing with a plane and going to a fire. Jumping out of a perfectly good airplane into a fire is not my idea of fire. But I've worked with them, yeah, they're good guys, they really are. And I think there's some photographs of them where we took a tour of the smoke jumper base in Missouri. This is in front of the high school in the Blackview Fire and Sisters, Oregon. There's our tents that you set up there. And just another base camp. This is actually the high school. A lot of times they use a high school because it's not used during the summertime. So the overhead and what have you has a place to have all their meetings in the different classrooms. Electricity, there's stuff there. There's a tent. This Bob Burry is our senior firefighter. Bob Burry is roughly about 74 years old, still does firefighting with us. He's a world-class wrestler from New York City. He wrestled on Syracuse University. The guy's in tip-top shape. Unbelievable man. Puts us all to shame.
Is that Army chow or is that good food?
That's good chow. I've never had Army chow, but this is good food. This is really good food. They really do. So like I said, I mean, we have ribs, we have chicken, steak, and all that. Very, very good food. And actually, when you go on the line, they'll list and say how many ounces of meat you have, vegetables, protein, all that stuff. They list it right there on the board. The cooks here in the camp we're at, are obligated by the federal government to feed us like a 5,200 calorie dinner. Dinner and lunch and breakfast.
We're working off by lunch.
You work it off. That's correct. So they have plenty to eat. You can always be back in seconds. There's no problem. Just go on the line, just eat, and have a good time. This is supply. And this is all stuff that's boxed up. It's water, food, tools, equipment, tents, tarps, fuel tanks, because we can't carry anything with us. So you're out there, you need it for your saws and stuff like that. So this is on supply. You just go in, and you check it out right to one of these ladies that work here. And a lot of these are like town employees in the little town you're at that'll come to the fire and work for a minimum wage. And they work in the fire camp and they check in and check out. So if I check out certain equipment, I have to, before I get home, my D-move, you have to have it signed out by supply saying, you owe the government nothing. You didn't check out a chainsaw, you have to bring it back. And this is, again, in base camp.
There's no midnight requisition around there?
Shut the camera off for a minute. Yes, it's probably just like the Army. If you're smart enough, yeah, you can get anything you want. The trouble is getting it home. Yes. This is, again, downtown, just all the little yurts that they have, the overhead, finance, communication, logistics, ground support. You always need vehicles, you have to get there. When I get there with a plane, they drive me here with a bus. I need a vehicle to get back and forth to the fire. So they've all set this up when you sign out,
Do they use a lot of those yurts?
Yes, in the base camp, yes.
Because they're big in Alaska.
Oh, okay.
Huge in Alaska.
Yeah, they use these. These are now a lot of the base camps have these things all set up, ready to go. That's actually the incident commander, the IC. He's in charge. He's happened to be in my photo. The showers facilities, like I said, you come in, you grab a towel, usually out of one of these things, just a big paper towel, stands about your body height. You grab 2 of them, and you take your shoes off. You walk inside here, and there's just shower stalls in here. You're much better now. When I used to go to fire camp, there was usually 17 spigots hanging on the bottom of the wall. You stood there and it's like, hello. But now they're all private little, individual stalls and stuff. They're very clean. Again, they're inspected through the health department here, in camp, so there's no one needs any disease, anything like that. You don't pick up nothing. So these places are kept really clean. That's why your boots stay off there. You get changed outside here. And let's see, does it have it? Okay, if you get the fire in, I think there's shaving. If you just wanted to shave, and you don't have to take a shower, they have that all set up for you. You have to bring your own shaving equipment, but there's always hot water and all that for you. The gray water's out back there, so it's all pumped in. Fueling station is a truck, same thing. A fuel truck will pull up to the middle of this a small camp. We call it Coyote Camp. Filling up the different trucks, lining up there, getting fuel in the morning, because we're probably 2 hours away from the town, I know, at this camp here. So they'll bring him out, and every day we're an hour plus out to the fire. So we use a whole lot of fuel. You just fill it up the same thing you fill a slip. This is the camp here. This is beautiful. They pay me to go to it. But this is our base camp. You see the reservoir's down a little. This is the boat ramp. So the hot top ends there. So we're a little low here. That's where all the crews stay. This reservoir. This is up top of the chow line. You can see there's no tent here. You're just out on the outside in the wind. Every camp's different. Sometimes they have a tent out here, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't have tables. You go, you accept it. That was a bad day at the Bull Fire in Idaho. That is smoke. And we get back to camp going, that doesn't look good. And about an hour or two later, we were out of there. The fire came and overran the whole base camp. So we were down in these little Quonset huts we'd made. It was 100-foot long, black plastic, and we just took the poles, we took rebar at each end, banged it in, put a plastic PVC pipe up and over the top, these 20-foot lengths, then we grabbed the plastic over, and that was our tents. But we left it all there. We got in our bus and we got out of there real quick, because the smoke, this fire did take off. This picture was taken just before, and that's when we were just about to get on the bus.
Are those local school buses? Or
Yes, they are. Yep.
Local?
And a lot of school bus drivers, just summertime, they're not working, and that's who drives us. So your local lady that you see riding around the bus here, in the towns out west, they drive the firefighters.
A lot of smoke in the air right now.
Yes, there is. The fire was probably within 2 miles from this camp right
I
now.
wouldn't want to stay there.
We didn't. So, information board?
Do you lose much equipment to a fire overrun of your base camp sometimes? Or-
Yes. In that case, yes, we lost a lot. They did. I didn't lose much. I lost a couple pairs of socks and stuff. So that's the other thing, is when you leave for the day, your best bet is to have everything packed in your bag. So if the camp crew has time, they can go up to your site and throw stuff on a stake bed truck and go. If your laundry's spread out over your tent, guess what? See you later.
Yeah.
Right, they're going to the next guy that's got his gear packed and ready to throw in the truck.
Yeah.
So you learn that once. Base camp, I tell you the Red Sox scores and what have you right here on our bulletin board. Here's a bunch of thank you notes, what's happening around. This is just a little information. It's just thank you notes for the local kids in town and stuff. So that's kind of cool. Again, we're in the school, which makes nice for briefings. So we get our IAP, Incident Action Plan, every day. We get this, it tells you your weather, where your crews are, what equipment, whether the nearest hospital is by ground or by air, someone get hurt, all that information. Your radio frequencies, everything's in that. And you pick that up here in the morning as a crew watch. You go in and listen up, and they'll tell you where your assignments are. There's maps and whatever else, where the different divisions are set for the day. It tells you what the fire did yesterday, expected fire today. So you pick all that up. Okay, 6 o'clock in the morning, every fire, every day. It's always changing. This is a spike camp, and it's pretty much very basic. The stuff is flown in by helicopter, and that's where we had coffee and breakfast in the morning, right there in the old pot, sitting there, and that's where you sat and had breakfast in the morning. That's it. Gatorade was parked over here, and your lunches were flown in sometimes, or the MREs, your military MRE
Yeah.
meals ready to eat, they're flown in the box, and you get your pick. As the week goes on, well, the pickings get slimmer. What you didn't pick the other day, well, that's what you have.
That's what's left to take care of.
You see some large trees. Looks pretty. It is nice, but if a fire ever came across here, you see it wouldn't take much to get over there. So it looks pretty, but it's not always a good thing. And the fire was way up in the mountain. You saw the smoke here. There's another road down in Florida, talking 98. I was down there in Big Cypress, and green stuff does burn. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of the resins and what have you that are in the different vegetation does burn really well.
If you drive in, how do you back out of those places if you can't?
Good
see?
point. That's the good thing. You usually, when you get to a fire, the first thing you do is park the rigs and turn them facing out. Because now you can see, when the smoke comes, you can see a whole lot less. So you always want to be ready to go out as quick as possible. But there isn't always a lot of turnaround room in most places you go. You have to work at it. The buses are even tougher. You know, the buses a lot of times have to drive maybe a mile or two up a road to get to a turnout, to turn around, and to come back from the
You
drop off.
can't cut down trees and make it cut off?
Depends on where you are. Some forests let you cut down trees and some say no. So, you don't, and we go into some wild areas and some, areas of the Forest Service that there is no power tools whatsoever. No chainsaws allowed, you know, so it's all walking and
Well, that
two-man
road
saw.
doesn't look like it's wide enough for a vehicle.
No, it's not. These are, you see, it's a buggy. These are like those big mud buggies, tires about 4 foot high.
Do you have any access to tracked vehicles?
There are a few, not for the transportation of the people usually, no. Usually if it's that bad, they take a walk, you know. So, this is just, these carry about, I think it's about 250 gallons of water, these buggies that were on here, that were going to a fire. I got to fly in one day. This is how I usually go. As you can see, they've cut down the trees here. This is a fire break and a hand trail. Actually you can see the hose line and stuff along the line. So they've come in and cut down, and then the hand crew came and dug a trench, and they've actually strung the hose lay along here. And they might be doing a back burn here, whatever, later on. You can see all the debris on this side. There's not much on this side, so we cleared, the fire would be definitely on this side. As you can see, there's not much vegetation here, but they took all the brush and they piled it up here on the green side. So when the fire does bump the line, there's not a lot of fuel and heat to make it jump the line. But this is usually how you get to work in the morning, walk. Okay, it is dusty roads. That's just foot dust from traffic. Just a country road somewhere.
So everything obviously was very, very dry there.
Absolutely dry, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nothing like we see around here. As much as we think we have a drought here, it's not. You could dig down a foot and it's just dust.
And that helps
dust.
out the fire.
Sure does. You know, it's fun. I've camped here all my life around here, and you know, you can't get stuff to burn when you go in camping. They're the dirt burns. I mean, everything burns. It really does. Just smolders and smolders. This is actually an intersection of a road coming around the corner here and going this way in Sisters, Oregon. So, as you spoke, how do you drive? Very carefully, and it changes in minutes. So you got to really pay attention. That's all just smoke. So you really got to watch your driving hazards. This is last year my rented vehicle, little washouts, and that's how this road was. It's 5-6 mile an hour driving, just bumping along on this road. There's a lot of dozer lines. You see a dozer just knocked all these trees over, all laying on this side here. And now it just becomes an access road to get the crews up to the different drop zones. They call them drop zones where they drop on. Here we are on track vehicles. We did get a ride one day. A little half-track type of thing. Again, cease fire. It's a private company hired by the fire, and they feel this is the most efficient way to get crews up there. You know, I've flown to the top. That's nice, but it's expensive. Takes a lot of time. Here's a picture of that buggy that we saw going to the marsh. It's a great buggy. This is down in Oasis, Big Cypress. It's called Oasis National Parks in Oakland. And we're in Collier. We're first responders there. I was there in '98. That was a fun buggy. Those were fun to drive. Going up on these jet boats, they only need about 4 inches of water clearance. These things are beautiful. What a way to travel to a fire. This is called Tomato Point Fire. There's a Tomato Point mountain up there. And we went to the fire in these jet boats. We stayed at a Boy Scout camp, and they picked us up in the morning and brought us upriver to the fire. It was the only access. Because with all the smoke, there's no helicopter means for air travel. A little bit of the art for the Torres guys. Something to do while you're hanging around, a little hurry up and wait, so they a little art. It is pretty nice.
It is.
Yeah, we do washout vehicles too. Again, you park them here on actually the black side. This is the black, there's a lot of vegetation there. So if a fire did come through, it just hits this grass, comes and goes real quick. If the vehicles are parked where the heavy timber is, the fire comes in there, your vehicle's pretty much gone, so. There's my little toy in the back seat, there's fire here, you get to ride a four-wheeler. But again, visibility is, it's the middle of the day, so it's, all the vehicles are pointed out. You see them. Keys are always left either in the vehicle, and now with the automatic locks, it's best to put them in the gas tank, open the cover. All keys are always left in the vehicle. So if somebody got to that vehicle and had to move them, you know, the keys are there to move the vehicles.
You want accountable for a vehicle you took out?
If you parked it in a road and the fire came by and burnt it up, you wouldn't be accountable, no. But if you did damage and drove into a tree, yes. So, you know, it's limited, it's like anything else, you know, if it wasn't your fault, you've gone on assignment, because you parked the car there at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're not gonna be back until 7, 8 o'clock at night sometimes. A lot can happen that day. You do pick your spots, you do try to, you know, pay attention. You see these guys, this is the burnt out area, that's where these Torres vehicles that you saw the right in the back of those trucks, that's when they went down here. And the fire had already come through this area, pretty much, yeah. Again, I took the picture, my gloves are right here, by the way, just for your caution. No glasses, they're right there. I took the picture myself, so.
What
I will
about
run back over.
respirators?
Excuse me?
Do you have respirators? Is
No,
that smoke?
no, not.
How are your lungs?
Probably not that good.
Like a cigarette smoker.
I hope not, but yes. No, respirator, you couldn't carry it, just too heavy, it's cumbersome all day. You know, you just couldn't do it. You carry your 25 pounds of gear right there on you all the time. So. And at a fire, 1,500 people fighting the fire every day, you couldn't, you know, what would you have? Leave your dust mask, it's about all. You know, I usually just have a bandana. Here's the crews, with these guys here are waiting to be briefed. These are being briefed. Some people have never been in a helicopter, and there they are approaching the helicopter. This is a helibase, another one over here. And then we flying the crew back up to the top of the mountain. If fire truck is on board, there's a whole helibase, there's helibase managers and all that, and they prep you and tell you how to get on a helicopter the proper way, safely. You know, you always approach a helicopter when the pilot gives you the nod. You never approach a helicopter until he gives you the nod. You always keep eye contact with the pilot, and you approach it from in front of the rear doors. That's why, from either front this way or on the side, but you never, ever, ever walk past the rear doors. There's no reason ever to walk past the rear door, and they strip, you know, that's just the way it is. Mostly when you're here, there's usually an instructor right here, telling them, making sure you do this correctly. When you get up the top is where it's like, oh, it's just on the top of a mountain, you know, and it's just, you have to stress that with the guys, and make sure when you exit with a, you know, and walk to the front, usually to the front of the helicopter. And a lot of times they'll park it on a hill, and if the hill rises up in front, you definitely wouldn't want to walk up towards the front, because the blades are getting closer to you as the hill goes up. So there's all these things you got to think about, you know. And a lot of times, like I said, you're with a crew that's never been on a helicopter, excited, they want to take pictures and all, so you got to keep thinking all the time. Just remember, the further you are in the woods, the further you are away from help if something does go bad. So you really got to pay attention to that. Here's the helitack crew. You can see he has the funky helmet on here, and he's signaling the pilot how to come in. He's got the fire extinguisher right here. This is the top little mountain here where they bring the crews in. Usually only take in 6 at a time, so it usually takes 4 trips with a helicopter to bring a crew in. So I'll send my assistant up first, up to the heli-spot, and then he'll keep charge of the crew while the other crew is going back, and I'll fly last person up, you know, and I'll just keep in touch with the guys down below. Keeping everybody down below the helicopter. Everybody wants to go up and see, but it's a dangerous place if something goes wrong. Stuff's flying, it's just sticks and everything else all up there. Oh, that's the way your goggles and everything. Chin straps are on. See the chin straps are on? Because you'll be sucked up into the helicopter. This is heli-spot number 20, happens to be, that's how they mark them. From the air, they can see the 2 over there. That's the crew once we get up there. There I am right there.
Just for curiosity, like everything else in life, it keeps changing and improving. You have many years' experience, but in the last, say, 2 years, 1 year, what are the most improved ways of doing firefighting, etc.? What has happened as far as
What has happened? I think
what innovations have taken place?
There's not really a lot of different innovations taking place other than tactics, and the effort on safety is really high. When I first started, there wasn't a lot of effort on safety actually on your daily work ethic, you know. And now you go to some fires and they want you to check in. That if you've heard the weather, because we do the weather say every 15 minutes, or sometimes it's 20, depends on if it keeps the RHs, the relative humidity keeps dropping. And on some fires, they want the crew to check in to the division soup that he heard the weather that's broadcast over the radios every half hour. Just, are you aware that we just had a weather report and it's dropped, You know, the temperature's gone up 10 degrees, their relative humidity has dropped, 10, 15%, something like that. So it's just an awareness, but it's fighting the fire, it's still pulling the fuels away from the fire, you know, it's bottom line, it's just grunt work, it is still grunt work.
It's scary.
How about aircraft? Aircraft plays a bigger part nowadays.
You see that on TV,
Yeah,
and that's what it is, it's sensationalism on TV, it's like anything else.
not that much.
Not really that much, it's very expensive for one thing, very expensive. And it retards, it's called retardant for that reason, it retards the fire, it doesn't stop the fire, doesn't put out the fire. The guy in the ground, by beating it and opening it up and, you know, exposing the heat,
Yeah.
and removing the heat from concentrated areas to spread it out, cools it down, that's what puts the fires out, is the ground guys. They're retarded, to slow it down, but once it's up in the trees and what have you, you gotta wait, it's gone, you have nothing to do. Plane's not gonna waste, it's not gonna waste its time, we're only dropping 1,000 gallons. And that's spread out to the air is nothing. Nothing. You can see the moss growing here. This is all called ladder fuels. So when he fires down the bottom, you see all the tangle of dead trees. It just gets on this stuff and just goes right out. Very bad. Look how, it's a dead forest, first of all. A lot of dead trees, diseased, you know, it's waiting to die. You know? This is down in Shenandoah, different vegetation type, just a thicket. And this is a fire line. If the fire's creeping through the ground, this will stop it. If it's up and through the vines and stuff, so it depends on when it's burning. And that's where they decide where you put your fire line. Morning, this here would hold. Middle afternoon, it may not hold because the fire might have gotten up into the drier fuels
Little
during the
crown,
day.
won't it?
It'll show crown, correct. Yeah. It'll go right over, and you can see it'll go right over this stuff. It's just connected.
If you've got 20 guys out there fighting a fire all over the place, how often do you check in to make sure some guy isn't down?
I'm usually either in visual contact with my 20 guys,
How
or
do you do
off
that
with
if
the
they're
radio.
all over the place?
We have radios, I'll have a radio, and a crew boss will have a radio, and usually the other crew boss will have another radio. So you know, like, in the briefing, who's your adjacent forces. So again, you wanna keep in touch with your adjacent forces, know what's going on. But it's just something you know, your other crews are there.
If you guys, if somebody gets in a bind, they have a radio that they can call to somebody. Can
There's
they-
usually a radio per crew, sometimes 2 radios per crew.
Yeah,
There's a lot of chatter going on, 1,500 people, there's only 14 channels.
yeah.
One's for aircraft, one's for, overhead, for ordering supplies for as the day goes on, for tomorrow's, like by 2 o'clock, you should be talking to the division soup, who calls into base camp, so that radio's free. A rescue, you never on, the aviation, there's like 3 usually channels for aviation, you're never allowed to go on. You can listen to them, you're not allowed to talk on them.
Talk, yeah.
Not allowed to talk, that's for them, because you have air ops, and you have the helicopter, air to ground it's called, he's talking to a crew he might be working with on the ground, and then you have your helicopter and your fixed range plane, and he's on another channel above, air ops is watching. So there's always a plane, if there's a helicopter working in an area, most fires, there's a plane circling the fire the whole time, coordinating the 6 or 8 helicopters that are flying in and out, and they fly in a counterclockwise.
So if, like Kenny was saying, if every man does not have a radio, correct?
Correct, there's no way to
So
do that.
if, say I'm on a line,
Yeah.
I'm in a bind, and for whatever reason, I have
A bee injury, a bee sting's
I'm
big there.
bad, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's up to the teammate on each side of me
Yep.
to kind of watch out for each other.
Yes, right, you have a squad
In
boss.
lieu of the individual radio.
You would not have a radio, right. I have and sometimes I have 3 squad bosses, 3 squads
Yeah.
in my crew, and there's like 6 guys in each one.
Yeah.
So you'd tell your squad boss would tell me, that's the chain of command. And if you were allergic to bees mostly, and we had to get you out right away, and they're right. EpiPen.
Sounds a lot like an infantry war.
Kind of sore, yeah, you know who your enemy is, correct.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, you get it, if we needed you air vac out, how far are we from getting you out?
Yeah.
If you start swelling up and, we know who's a medic, we know all that, we do that at the airport. I found out who's an EMT, who knows that they're, just, first responder.
Yeah.
And that's all known to me, and I write that in my IAP, so I know who I can go to, boom, boom, in my crew,
Yeah.
if something happens real fast. Or another crew next to us, they usually know. And if we do need to be airlifted out, how can you get them to the top of the mountain, to the bottom of the mountain? What are you gonna bring to? Yep, just a line of dead fuels, you can see all this, this is a different terrain. Here, this was clear cutted a few years ago, so now the green fuels here, and this is that dead fire, the dead fuels and stuff, where the fire's gonna come in and get this later. And this is a nice area that stops the fire. did stop the fire. These are big, you can see, people say, it's a big clear-cut area up in the, patchwork. So when the fires come in, a lot of times it just stops right there naturally, or at least brings it down to the ground, and then we can come in and take care of it. There's a dozer doing some work off the road. Making a big wide dozer.
How do you get those big heavy dozers?
The road. They bring them up in a low boy.
Low boy?
Yep, low boy, and they just go. It's amazing. You'll be miles and miles up in the mountain, and it's like, when did he get here? You know? Slowly, but he gets there. And they have some really fantastic drivers there, operators that are really good. Yeah, yeah, he's real.
Loggers have a lot of.
And hungry.
And hungry. I know, I was beating him there. No. These are some of the hazards.
Brewster County.
Yeah, yeah, you can see I got my radio right here, extra battery right there, my chest protector and all.
Does he have any respect for you, or you respect?
I had
him?
more respect for him.
Yeah.
I didn't ask if he had respect for me. It was like, hurry up and take the picture, will you?
Beer.
Very good. The
Yes,
funny part
yeah.
is, this is on a trail.
I was gonna say Indian.
And I was behind my crew, and they were 5 minutes up the trail. And those bear prints are on top of my crew footprints.
So he was in between
He's
your crew and you.
walking on my radio and said, there's a bear somewhere
Yeah.
between you and I. So
Yeah.
have the guy in the back keep looking behind. And you don't know if he's coming in, he'll circle and be behind me.
Oh, yeah.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
But he's tracking them. No, he wasn't tracking me.
Do you find many animal carcasses in these
I've only
fires?
seen 2 dead deer in my life.
That's all?
Yep. Yep.
Bears, same way?
Never seen a dead bear, seen bears. And I met him in Shenandoah, and he was running. He didn't care about me. Because the fire was coming, he come running, we just heard on the rail, hey, bear's coming through you.
Hauling, yeah.
And he was hauling, and he went right by me, scared me out there.
Ooh,
There you
yeah.
go.
So he's just looking at us, what's going on, you know.
Smoking.
You can see we de-limbed, we have the dirt, dozer line across here for the fire break, and we also limbed up a little. Again, we took all the brush and we brought it on the other side. So if the fire did come from this area here, which it was on, it would drop out of these trees, be on the grass, and then when it butts up against our fire line, it goes out. So people don't even have to be there at the time. Hazard trees, as you can see from the other side, you'd never notice that there's a whole center of this tree is just burnt right out of here. So on a windy day, no fire, everybody's got, lets their guard down, you're just walking through a burnt area, there's no fire. Very hazardous, you're always gonna be keeping up. You know, the roots all burn out, like we were talking about, all the roots, any kind of wind can knock this tree right over. Tree doesn't make a noise till it hits the ground, and hopefully, you know, you're not around when it does.
What's your dropout rate of people per 100? If you start off with 100 guys, beginning of the year, how many stay with you for the next 5 years?
Next fire, it's less.
It's
I'll go on a
less?
fire with 20 guys,
Yeah.
come home, and go on another fire assignment like 2 weeks later, and I'll probably have 15 different guys. Just from different jobs, they can't get away this week, they may not be able to go on the list, the availability list, to go to a fire. So when I go to a fire, from the Northeast, we get people from Acadia National Park.
Yeah, but you've been with them, say, 30 years.
Yep.
I mean, in that type, in your classification, how many would drop out,
I don't know.
or none?
No, the guys that are like on the crew bosses and what have you, they stay with it. It's the guys that the ground pounders, the 1 and 2 year, people who do it for 2 or 3 years. And it's like, I've had enough of this, and they go on with their lives, their
Yeah.
career, whatever, they don't like to do it. You gotta love living in the dirt, there's no doubt about it.
Okay.
You gotta love like, hey, this is where you're sleeping, just under the woods, no shower for 13 days, hey, that's just the way it is.
I did a thing in a Reader's Digest one, it says these firefighters in the forest, they're getting surrounded by fire, and they said they buried themselves in the dirt and let the fire go by.
They should have left 10 minutes
That's
ago, I
not
would
real?
say.
Yeah.
I don't think you couldn't bury yourself in the dirt. The fire would just be too
They
extreme.
pull that,
How you gonna dig, a finish
protect
shovel?
The baked potato syndrome?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I got one here, there's a practice one there, but yeah, never had to take one out of my pack, and I hope I never have to.
That's
We do
leaving
practice
10
with it every
minutes ahead
year.
of time.
Haven't they lost a couple of crews that way back?
Oh, yes, yep. And that's a lot of times how they have like a scenario, and they'll do like this year's firefighting scenario, when they do an 8-hour refresher class. They'll talk about casualties from last year and learn from those casualties. And that's how your 18 watch-out situations or firefighting rules, fight fire aggressively, but provide for safety first. So all these different rules come in usually from a tragic fire. So we try to learn from that, yes.
Seeing these fires and hearing you speak, Well, it reminds me, when I was in the Navy in the 40s, I was on a light cruiser, and this was the time that Maine had their fires,
Yes,
46. A lot of people don't remember that. We pulled in, I was on the light cruiser Little Rock at the time. We pulled in Portland there, and we had, a lot of our men were helping with the firefighting, et cetera, but also more to get the volunteers in. And one place they went was on that road that goes from Kennebunk over to Sanford, right by the airport. That was all over the fire department and all those trees. But the one that really scared me is that I brought a few people, and we went up to Arcadia, and that was the time that the Jackson laboratory was burnt down, you know, all the mice.
yeah, it's nice there, right.
But there was, that was a tremendous fire. And that was the first time that I had ever, I didn't actually work on the fire itself, because it wasn't my capacity, but it was getting people together because they weren't really.
Familiar with it, yeah. It was unknown to them.
Where's Jocko Lake?
Jocko Lake is in Sealy, Montana. You know where Sealy is? You know where Missoula is? Missoula. About an hour east of it. Okay.
I didn't know what state it was in.
Oh, yeah. And this fire, we were driving up to find out where the head of the fire was, actually. I was with the safety officer. And this fire blew up, as they say, it took off. And we were trying to find access, like, for the rest of the day and for tomorrow. So he was a hunter. It's always good to get the local. You have to be a safety officer. And we were driving, as you say, we found the fire. We found the head of the fire as far as we went, we turned around. But we were marking with a GPS unit where the fire was right now, because everything was just smoke, couldn't see nothing. So we went back down and we made another loop, we got another fire. We had hunted and stuff, so we knew the different roads to travel.
GPS has played a big,
It does now, yeah.
years ago you didn't have that.
Didn't have that now. So you really pinpoint where the fire is, the fire edge, when they're flying over, like the next day, where they want to send the troops. How not to take a lunch break. Do you see anything wrong with this? I'll get the helmets on,
All that dead stuff.
all the dead stuff. And if a tree falls down, and a tree's usually pretty straight, huh?
Oh.
Yeah,
It's gonna take everyone out. When you take a break,
stand up.
you scatter, you sit around, don't all sit in a line. That's one thing I stress. I go, don't anybody, I came upon these guys doing this. I took their picture, then I told them, never sit like that. Never sit like that. All get their backs this way, so that anything this is uphill,
Sure.
anything uphill, it's gonna fall downhill.
You know, nobody will see it.
No, until it hits them. So, yeah. It's just things you gotta think about even when you're taking a break. And my rule is, if you're off the bus, the helmet goes on, all times. No ifs, ands, or buts, but no reason you take a helmet off. On the wipe some sweat off your butt. You know. Talk about World War II. This is a bomb out in front of, a water bomb. They used to actually drop these water bombs trying to put out fires back in the World War 1940, 44, 45, something like that out west. And now it's on a mountain in front of the airport in Missoula. Kevin Allen's riding the bomb down. The pumpkins, we fill these up with a water tender. We'll back right up here and put in, 1,200 gallons. There's all our hose, real used hose. Little Mach 3 pump, fuel already mixed. And we'll send it down the line, down the road, and we just have a maze of hoses going to different parts of the fire. And this pump, I usually have like 3 or 4, be filling that thing all day long, And you coordinate again with the radios, when it's getting low, have some people shut off some nozzles and work the ground, don't use so much water, until the pumps get back, and so you just empty it off into the air. You just gotta hold up the edge of this thing, it's self-supporting, so you don't need to have to tie it up, once you pull it up. There's a track machine, it's got a little water there. Yep. So that's a cool toy. Again, it's privately owned, just helps you. A lot of times just get the fuels and trees, and just pick the whole thing out, cut it off, and just get it right out of your way with a boom. And you can see he travels just about anywhere. This is Bob Murray again, working a hose line off that particular vehicle right there. Steve Vandenberg from Roosevelt, Vanderbilt, this guy here. He works at Fire Island National Seashore. He works at Vanderbilt Mansion. And he's
Dark glasses on the back.
sunglasses, that's all. Yep.
even in the fog, even in the smoke.
Yeah, it's bright, it's still bright, you know, still real bright. And the smoke comes and goes every time the wind's blowing, so you're in the sun, you're not, you know. This is a crew working with this Florida here, this particular one, getting out some hot spots. The crew, the best way to do it is just to take with the Pulaskis and just dig it out and mix it up with water, Another water tank. This truck had hit with the retirement drop, that's why it looks that color. So he wasn't parked in a good spot. And that stuff stains and it does not come off. A remote weather station, they'll put these out at the fire, because what it's doing back at the base camp, the weather, it's nice to know. But, you know, what it's doing here in Georgetown, if you're on a fire 2 hours away, now remember, that's Conway, New Hampshire. So a lot of times you drive like from here to Conway to get to your fire daily. It's a 2-hour commute. So that's why I say it's a big place out west. And you wanna know what the weather is up in New Hampshire, you don't care what it's doing here in Georgetown. And that's what they set these things up at a fire.
It can change in 20 minutes.
It can change in 20 minutes, and that's what, as we said earlier, you get a 15-minute update of your weather at that time. Here I was a human weather station. I was on lookout, Division S, at this puzzle fire, and you're watching for smokes and stuff down the valley below. There's my wind flags right there, so you have to tell them where the wind's coming out of and stuff. I have my little lunch there. There's my radio right there next to me. And again, it's set up there, you just do the weather. Division S Sierra weather station, and that's what you report all day long. So you hike up to the top of the mountain. It's a nice way to take a day off, you might say. Here's your retardant, probably tucked behind the mountain there.
Now, your compass is in your GPS, right? You don't have to have a separate.
Yes, I do have a separate compass.
Oh, you do?
Yes. GPS runs on batteries.
Batteries run out?
Thank you very much, you got it.
I-
Always have a backup, always have a backup plan. Here's our tools, we come off, we put them all next to each other, all right, safe, that way no one trips over the tools, we're all over the place. Again, this is at that heli spot, after the helicopter, this is where it was landing when we saw everybody. We're back on top of the knob, this is a cleared out area, and it's just doing a water drop up here. It's just getting pretty much right underneath them.
About the water.
Yeah.
That's a major chopper.
Is that
There's even a
really-
bigger major chopper.
Is that effective in putting out a dampening of fire with that water?
If the fire is racing through an area, head fire, no. This will slow down spot fire, a fire where the embers are being sent out in front of the fire, sometimes a quarter of a mile away, you know, with the winds. And this guy will take care of that. And it'll give us a GPS of where he's at, and then we can be on the ground and we can go to that area. With a squad, we'll send a squad up there, and we'll put a ring around that fire. Eventually, the rid of the fire might come up and go around that whole piece, but you don't want another fire out in front of, because once that starts generating its own heat, it sucks the fire up and just keeps getting worse and worse. So that's where your aircraft comes in. He holds about 2,000 gallons in that. It's about 8 foot tall, that little bucket there. It's good 8 foot tall. And that's why you don't stand under them, because you never know what's in there. As you can see, it's not clean water. You don't know what's in it. He just went to some swampy place and sucked it up.
Turtles, frogs.
Yeah. I'm more worried about the rocks and stuff.
Yeah, the wind they can pick up can go in any direction.
Anyway, and also when he comes over your head, he drops stuff, any dead branches up in the trees have a tendency to come down. Gravity takes over like that. So he knocks all that stuff down with a lot of force. Here's a retardant doing a line across here. This is pretty much, you see just grasslands. But we have to put this out because the government rents out this grasslands that you see here to farmers and cattlemen. And the cattlemen pay the government to, you know, use some grazing land, grazing rights that you hear about. So we do have to go in and put these fires out. Because, you know, they've paid for, 6,000 acres of grazing rights, and then it catches on fire. Well,
No more grazing.
no more grazing. Yeah, so that's cool. A little seat, I'll go back to that. Seat, single engine air tanker, that's what this guy is. Little tiny plane, a little Piper Club.
Yeah.
And he goes in, he lands on a dirt runway, he can refill real quick, because he's got a little truck with him that follows him, and he gets right back up in the air again. Whereas the big guy usually has to travel to Missoula Airport, to a regular airport. It could be an hour away, just by flight.
That's one of those I don't know.
Here's the red ground, the retardant, you can see all around here. After that seat, it's done a couple drops there, so it looks like up close. This is the day we're looking and leaving. Actually, we're picking up and leaving. The fire had come up, and we have an 1.5-inch fire hose along here. And we were putting out the fire really well, but about 2 o'clock in the morning, the RH has dropped down to about 12 cents. You know, lumber is usually 15% kiln dried, so it's less than that. It's unbelievably dry. Anything in Montana, usually end up 20-25%, it's heads up and it's ready to go. So this fire did kick up just like they expected, and we're pulling everybody out. It was time to bail. There's nothing we could do. Fire ran about 9 miles that day, for the fire. It's just before, again, the buses are pointed our way. We come down, get on the buses, and the fire's rolling behind us, up the mountain. And that's a little bit further away, and it's just all the smoke from this fire. It builds its own thunderheads and its own weather station. And that's from base camp about, I think about 12, 14 miles away. That's that same fire that blew up, all that smoke. That same fire. And we'll come back tomorrow. Everybody else safety, that's what we work for. Another resource we use, we lit our own fire. The fellow up here in the woods, he lit a fire up here, and now this fire here is going in. This one here is drawing this fire to it. And using this road, because right now there's not much heat right along here. So that kind of works for our advantage. Let's see, using fire. So when the main fire that's up here gets down into here, no fuel to burn, it goes out. So, and all it takes is 2 guys, rather than a whole crew. A lot of fuels, you can see all this dead stuff. Hot stuff. We work pretty close to the fire. There's a fire line right here, so you do work really close to the fire. And this is that grass up in that grazing area. Like we're lighting this actually off the dozer line right here is the dozer line. So it's just grass burning. And this is the other fire is back over here, backing towards us. So we're lighting it from the dozer line out this way. Try to burn off the fuel. So it's we're in control, I'd say. It looks bad, it really isn't. Really isn't. Here it's coming into that thick forest right there, pumping right up to that area we talked about with the overgrown and the new reed veg. This is all the dead trees. This is our backfire, working well. It's doing what it's supposed to do. So that's all controlled. The hand line we dug is right here. That's gonna hold this fire. The fire's going in that direction. And we lit it off this line, this little hand line right here. So it's that 2 foot wide. That's gonna hold that fire. The fire and the wind's pushing everything away from us. This guy's here is just in case, but we didn't need him. Everything worked well. See the fire just dying down. Breakfast, lunch, I don't know, off my little beanie weenies there they eat. Find a hot spot. If it's like lunchtime, you don't put that thing out. You get smoldering stuff going. You eat your lunch. When they give you burritos, they always give you a piece of tin foil. So works great. Everybody innovative, Yeah. And you look at it from the helicopter, out the door of the helicopter. You can see it burned hard and heavy certain areas. Then they use a retardant here with the help of stones and the clear, no vegetation, so that helps it out. But a lot of areas didn't burn at all, patchwork. So it doesn't really burn everything. You see that fire. Same thing, it's just smoldering here and there. Here it burnt pretty clean. That's even cleaner. This happened in a saddle. There's a hill here, there's a hill here. So when the fire came up this mountain, it was like a wind tunnel, and all that, it was like a chute, and all that heat and flame came ripping right through. That's why nothing's standing.
Does somebody come in and clear those lawns?
No,
Those trees?
nope.
You can't
After
do
a
it?
fire, they say it's useless.
It is, you
Yep.
can't cut them up?
You can't cut them up. Yep.
They just stay there?
They stay there and they decompose. Yeah. You can see the golf course right behind here. This house here is pretty clean around here, not a lot of vegetation. That guy made it. There's a chimney. This one didn't make it. Wow. That's what's left. Again, this house made it. This one here didn't. This is the garage door. That was the only thing left. The chimney's right here. It's gone. The car's out front. It's gone. This is the force of the fire. Bent these trees over. Coming up like that.
Typically, how many weeks out of the summer are you gone?
You only go for 2 week intervals, 14 days. Safety. That's it.
You can't go any
Yeah,
longer?
2 days, and then you can go again. So it's 2 week intervals. That's it.
So How does that summer stay from June, July, August,
I would do
September?
like 3 weeks. Last year I left August 1st and I came home September 15th. I came home for 2 days, excuse me. Went back out to mid-September. So I was gone a month and a half from my regular job, family, everything, right, they're gone.
How do you get time off from your regular job?
Again,
How do you know it's hot? Does it feel the ground or what?
No, a lot of times they'll fly over with infrared, the helicopter will, and they'll tell you it's
Okay.
these different coordinates, and sometimes they'll give you GPS, sometimes they'll just say it's in Division S, and it's up to you to go find them, you know, so. Yeah. You do get to see some pretty places, too. This is the Metolius River, and you stop it up. So that's about smoke jumpers, they gave us a tour of that.
How many,
I knew you were gonna ask that question. How many women? As many as go on. On an average, a crew of 20, usually have 3 or 4 women on the crew.
oh, really?
Yep, sometimes more. Yep. A lot of them go firefighting. Let's go back. Again, we had to be ready, line ready at that point there. You know, we're on initial attack, waiting for fires. We got to just disperse us to wherever a hot spot was. So we have all our gear.
Is this your vehicle? where you
This is our
camping?
vehicle. Matter of fact, no, we got a day off from a camp. In the old days, they used to give you 14 days. They gave you a day off in either base camp or let you go to town, and then you stayed for 7 more. And they found there was too many accidents in the next 7 days. People were just tired doing 16-hour days. And that's why they sent everybody home. Whether you're the camp cook, the guy doing security, doesn't matter. You're there for 14 days and that's it. And we went into town and we saw these horses and the little kid come over and goes, you want to ride one? And he said, sure. Next thing you know, the whole crew's riding a horse and paying this kid money to let us ride the horse.
That kid's an entrepreneur.
He sure was. He had
You
4
got
horses.
suckers right there.
We had a great time. Some of my guys have never been on horses.
Sure. The kid's-
This is the base camp here. You see it by a river.
Good swimming?
Good swimming, yep. There's Bob wrestling in front of the school, just relaxing, waiting to go home this time. Anyway, here with the saw, is at the saw bank, 2-man saw, because up in the wilderness, a lot of times you're not allowed to have power equipment. And it's a 90-pound pack they carry. They fly you and jump you there because there are no roads. There's the chutes and the showing where they pack them off, repair. There's the Wildland Fire Memorial in Trimville. These are the firefighters we lost in '94 in Colorado. 14 firefighters, Trimville hot shots.
It's gonna start.
All right.
Thank you so much for everything. Okay. They are gonna start and it will get very loud very quickly.
These are some of the pictures here at the end.
And they're
Sunset, this is down in Florida.
Who goes through there and replants all the trees?
Nature.
Nature.
Sometimes fire is what it needs, the ponderosas and stuff, they need the fire to, that was the end of that was the last slide. The fire is what actually pops open the seeds and it needs it to regenerate. And also when the fire cleans out the forest of all the dead, sunlight now can get down onto the floor and sprout new vegetation. Whereas it's been shrouded in shade and no new trees, so the nice big sequoias you see out west, there's no new ones growing because we have stopped fires for years and years. No fire, put them all out. And now all this vegetation has grown up. You know, it's choked out the floor of the forest. So fire is used, you know, a lot of places, good.
Beneficial.
Very beneficial.
Didn't some secretary of agriculture almost get fired on account of that?
There was yes, for letting the fires burn. That was in Yellowstone, '88. If you go back to Yellowstone right now, it is absolutely gorgeous. And Yellowstone is diversely beautiful. And that's what did it, was fire over 1,000 years. When men stuck their finger in and started putting them all out, we screwed it up. So now we're trying to regain that. And that's what happens to a lot of these fires. They're in the urban interface now. That's what a class is now, S205. And that's the problem now, is people are moving into the forest. The forest isn't coming to the people. People are going to the forest, now people's homes are there, and that's what you see on TV. Stop. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Glad to be by.